The quarry is the old Beach Forest Sandstone Quarry. The property itself is a little under 20 acres. It is a working sandstone quarry that's currently in rehabilitation. Myself and Millie, we founded in 2015. We run a practice in Melbourne called These Are the Projects We Do Together. We're a design and architecture practice, but we also really specialise in what we call caretaking or facility management. We were interested in a site, I guess, that was not the typical kind of bucolic, beautiful rural property. We were interested in something that needed care, needed rehabilitation. It wasn't really until March of 2016 that we worked out that the entire perimeter was under about 2 or 3 metre high blackberries. There was a mixture of heartbreak and awe where we saw just the extent of the blackberry infestation. Our first approach, to be honest, was really quite low-key. We were cutting it by hand, we were digging it up, which we were so proud of. We had this real moment of we've cleared this beautiful fern gully and let all the ferns come through. And then I think it was within 12 months that it all grown back. And that was kind of a moment where we decided that we needed a more consistent approach.
I work as an advisor with Joe and Millie and the project. I do like to get in and do the work with Joe, particularly when you can see the results. Helping him get a handle on the blackberry problem, which is the big pest plant here.
Rod came down to the quarry really early, and his approach was to really gently approach the blackberry, not try and wholesale eradicate. He's like, just take a little bit at a time. The way we're controlling blackberry these days, and we'll continue to do for the next couple of years, is that we've purchased a large quick spray unit, and that allows myself and Rod to do the work on site. Once a year, over 2 or 3 days, we'll spray a section of blackberry strategically, so we're doing it in late November, early December, depending on the weather.
It was initially just to create a working edge, so an area of least concern, and then work towards the areas of greater concern in terms of the infestation of blackberry.
The effectiveness of the spray unit can't be underestimated. The access that then gives you, that's really effective. Knocking those blackberries down to the ground and then being able to walk through the landscape has been extremely effective. Being able to just inhabit that canopy.
There's a bit of mechanical removal as well, but unless you can remove the entire rhizome and all the roots from the ground, you're not going to stop that plant. The great thing about using a herbicide in your control is that it's drawn into all parts of the plant. And monitoring, I think monitoring's the most important thing. Just keeping an eye on it. In some spots you have to go back with the quick spray unit because it's just come up everywhere. Other spots you just use a little backpack with a little bit of chemical and you can just apply a very small amount and get an excellent result.
The challenges that the site faces, I guess, is the terrain. A lot of the face is extremely steep.
That's why we decided to start from the edge, because there's no slopes, it's relatively flat, but this has posed a whole lot of challenges.
Because there is a really thriving habitat here that's based on the spring water that comes up from the ground, that's been really something that we've been very mindful of, making sure that we keep well away from any water bodies with the chem. So doing all that manually, I guess, up close work has been one of the challenges.
Getting into certain areas where there's already a good cover of vegetation and trying not to damage those species too much whilst trying to get onto the blackberry, that's been a challenge.
Being remote from the site, visiting it, once a month or thereabouts. It's great for the bird life, it's great for the animal life. They really like it when there's no humans here, but it also does provide a bit of a challenge for us, not being here on a daily basis.
In getting the blackberry out, it has allowed a lot of other species that would have originally grown here, indigenous to this part of the world, that we've noticed coming back through. The ferns are extraordinary, some of those smaller herbia plants, some of the smaller trees, some of the smaller shrubs are coming back, recruiting in slowly. The blackwoods have come through remarkably. Look, there's a whole lot of other smaller species, apart from the bigger ukes that you can see.
The bird life has thrived since we've removed some of the blackberry. It's really important for fire suppression, and making sure the property is kind of ready for any fires is also really important. The whole ecosystem around the site, wallabies are starting to come back because now they can get easy access through the canopy, is really nice to see. Echidnas have been able to come back, whereas before they would have had to struggle through blackberry, which they don't like to do at all. I think our relationship with the place has really improved because we've done the work ourselves.
We're never going to get it back to what it looked like before 1788, but if we can see a greater diversity of species, plant species, which is what I'm interested in, but certainly the animals and the birds that come with that as well.
We worked with the Victorian Blackberry Task Force earlier this year to hold an information session. So we invited about 30 members of the community to come in. There was talks and workshops, spraying demonstrations, pine oil demonstrations. We talked about different ways of suppressing and controlling blackberry. And they brought a raft of information and support material to sort of help it connect with the community and grow that kind of network of people who are working in ways of controlling blackberry in particular, but all sort of woody pest plants, introduced plants. We're providing the spray unit as a community resource. There's been some really good projects along the Beach Forest Rail Trail. Under their own steam, the community have gone out and suppressed blackberry, opened up old walking tracks that haven't been open for a long time. Incremental approach to the blackberry was really important. To be able to take off small chunks at one at a time was a really key kind of lesson that we learnt early on, and was advice that we got from the community was don't try it all at once, just little bit by little bit and you'll get rid of it eventually. Taking a number of years to manage the blackberry actually gives you more insight and more education about the place. I have a huge amount of respect for blackberries. They are a remarkable plant and hugely successful. I don't sort of want to just kill them off. I think that there is a way of managing them so you can get rid of them slowly and thoughtfully. Summer, we go up to the community hall and make litres and litres of blackberry jam, which is a real treat. Our management plan was a 5-year plus 2-year plan, so we wanted to sort of establish something that was achievable, and seeing that every year we would do a little bit, and then by the 5th year thereabouts we'd be going back over our sort of early ground with occupation, with people here learning from the land and helping it recover from 100 years of mining. I think is really kind of our long-term vision for the site. Something that's used on a regular basis and something that's it's productive, I think, ultimately is what we're interested in.
When you see the changes over seasons and over years, it does become very satisfying. And when you see the improvement in Indigenous species coming through, I'm just looking at all the ferns bounce back just in a relatively short time since we started. It's phenomenal.
I do have moments of we could do more, but I have to caution myself that trying to do too much can actually be counterproductive. You can find yourself a couple of years' time unable to control areas because you've gone too far. You haven't done planting afterwards, you haven't sort of managed the problem. But yeah, very satisfied with where we've got to.